Rev up your engines!
There was a ship in the ocean, car carrying had hundreds, if not thousands, European cars started on fire, abandoned the ship. The crew, nobody was hurt. Right? It's just me is. We don't know yet. But wouldn't it be absolutely hilarious if the reason those cars started on fire, one of them was an electric car. Some of them were Porsches, and they make those electric Porsches. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if one of those lithium-ion batteries just started on fire and then started burning. And once that thing would start burning, lithium burns at a high temperature. And then if you've ever seen a container ship, the ones that carry cars, they're just rows of cars, and they got all the tie downs with chains tying them down, holding them down so they don't move. They're all right next to each other because they want to get as many as they can on a ship. Well, then the fire from the electric car would go to the next car, and what a mess that would be. I'll love to find out if it was an electric car that started that whole fire. I've never seen any of those things go up like that before. The thing about gasoline cars, they put them in shipping mode, so they can't start or anything. And then they got to take them out of shipping mode, so they're actually very safe to transport. But the electric cars, I'd love to see if it was an electric car that started that whole fire. All these expensive European cars, captain and a crew leaving a ship and letting it go. I can't wait to see. Of course, you never know. If it was, they probably cover it up because they don't want to admit how dangerous the electric cars are. Blame it on something else. Who knows? Who knows? But it would be funny if they do find out and say, hey, it was an electric car that started the whole thing. Scotty, I bought a 2021 2SS ILE Camaro about 5 months ago. When it had 5,300 miles on it, it started acting weird. I got a message that said service power steering. Then it said steering gear performance stock. Do not drive. I took it to the dealer. I'm going to have to wait 2 to 3 weeks. This is a car with 10,300 miles on it. They can't even make the electric power steering assembly correctly. 10,300 miles, it broke. Something that, remember back in the day when there were regular power steering pumps, those things would go hundreds of thousands of miles, 10, 15 years before they broke. 10,300 miles, the electronic crap broke on it. Then you can't have your car for 3 weeks because we got to wait on parts. No quality with these guys. None. That's why I warn people, don't buy them. You don't buy them, you don't get stuck in this rigmarole, being stuck with crap that isn't any good. They tell you it's going to be 3 weeks to fix your car. They don't make them right. They don't design them right. And then they take forever to fix them because so many of them break. The parts are on backlog because they're all breaking. Don't think he's the only guy with one that's breaking. Obviously, a bunch of them, they have to wait for the parts, you know. There's just lack of quality in that company. I don't know why people even buy them. But yeah, people get suckered into this whole buy American crap and all that stuff just to sell you garbage. Don't fall for that stuff. Buy quality stuff. Just don't go by some myth. See what's actually happening. Like guys like this said, they'll never buy another GM product. Well, Ford and State Farm are partnering up, and they're going to offer usage-based car insurance for late model vehicles. Now, some insurance companies have been doing this for quite some time. You put a tracker on your car, if you don't mind them tracking where you go. If you don't drive it much, you get lower rates. Because, I mean, there are people out there that only drive 500 miles a year or 1,200 miles a year. Why should they pay the same insurance rate as somebody who's driving 20,000 miles a year and certainly would have a much higher percentage risk of getting in an accident, whether it was their fault or somebody else running into it? Either way, the company's got to fork out money. Ford and State Farm, they're going conservative on this. They're starting it in Alaska, Idaho, and Oregon. Relatively small populated places, you know, so they're not doing it in New York, Chicago, LA, or anything like that yet. They're offering an initial 10% discount just to get into the system. And they say that their discounts overall can average between 10 and 15%. And even higher if you hardly drive at all. Like, so say you drive 500 miles a year, yeah, well, odds are you're not going to get too many wrecks going that short distance. But on the flip side, if you drive like a maniac, don't get it because it can raise your rates. They see you're speeding all the time, excessive G-forces, all that stuff can be monitored. They see how hard you brake, how hard you accelerate, how fast you go. If you don't want them to have that information, you wouldn't want to join this particular test group. Why not make it the people that drive conservative and don't get in wrecks get better deals? I got relatively low insurance payments because myself and my wife, we don't get in wrecks. We're good drivers. So, you know, over the years, we built up at that, hey, we're good drivers. We don't have to pay ridiculous rates. And we don't drive that many miles. Our only main driving is back and forth Tennessee, Rhode Island. And when you're going 60 on the highway on the interstate, it's pretty safe as long as it's not snowing and you're driving on the ice. So, not that bad of an idea if you don't mind the company's monitoring your every move while you're driving. Piece of Schmidt says, Scotty, I've been watching your videos. What's the best year Toyota Tundra? Well, I wouldn't buy the new one because it's got the stupid V6 turbo. They just started. They really having problems with them. The Tundras are all excellent trucks. But if you want the ones with the least maintenance that'll last the longest, get the later model ones. It covers a certain amount of years that have the metal timing chains. The earlier ones had rubber timing belts. Now, they were perfectly fine vehicles, but is an interference engine. If the rubber timing belt breaks, pistons at the valves. So you religiously have to change the timing belts every 100,000 miles and the water pump and the pulleys. And that's well over $1,000 job. And a lot of guys don't want to get involved in it. If you got a timing chain, generally they last forever if you change your oil every 5,000 to 6,000 miles. So excellent trucks. But like I said, hold my judgment back on the brand new ones because I don't like the idea of a V6 instead of a V8 with twin turbos and all this fancy crap. And they have shown problems. I would hold back on those until they've been out a few years. Maybe they get all the bugs out of them. The V8 ones with timing chains are the best ones to buy. Fan True says, I got a 2010 Nissan's a CVT transmission, needs replacing. I tried fluid change, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't work right. I'm thinking about buying a transmission and doing the work. Do you think it's worth trading it in? Should I just get rid of it? You're going to get nothing for it if it doesn't drive right, if the transmission's going out. Two, you were thinking about fixing it yourself. They're extremely complex. Don't even think about taking it apart and fixing it. I knew a guy who was the president of the North American Automobile Rebuilding Association. When they started coming out with CVTs, he sold his business and got out and said, Scotty, these things are so complex, they cost so much to fix. No one's going to pay to fix it, and I won't make any money because nobody will pay me to fix it, and they're a real pain to fix. Take a gamble to perhaps maximize your money. If you can find a used one in a junkyard, bolt it off, put a new one in, try that, and then sell it. People are paying a lot of money for cars. They run and go okay. Carvana, companies like that. The other day I saw Carvana bought a Nissan that was 7 years old for $60 more than the guy originally paid for it when it was new. So they're paying a lot, but only ones that run and go. If yours isn't running and going, you're going to get nothing. So you might want to gamble with a used transmission. Other than that, I'd just say get rid of it if you don't want to mess with that because remanufactured one's going to cost a ton of money. Unless somebody can get you a remanufactured one guaranteed and you find that, well, if they do that, it's a 2010, I don't know what mileage you have, but if it's not too high mileage, they might pay you a lot more money than that. If they say they can fix it for $5 grand and they're going to give you 10 on a trade-in, what the heck? There's $5 grand you'll get. You can go that route. AB26 says, my OBD2 port doesn't work. Help. On my Yukon. I looked for fuse, but I couldn't find any. The OBD ports. Yeah, they do have a fuse. Check the fuse. Make sure the fuse is good. But if the fuse is good, you plug it in and it won't communicate. One of two things are wrong. Pull off your connector. Look at it with a flashlight and a magnifying glass. There's a bunch of terminals in there. Usually there's 17. Make sure none of them are green or bent and corroded. If they are, spray them with an electrical cleaner, straighten them out. A bad connection will do that. Now, if it's not that, here's the unfortunate part. Any, and I mean any sensor on your car can make you have no communication. It can short the whole system out so that it won't communicate. So what you do then is start unplugging them one at a time. Turn the key on after you unplug it. And if it starts communicating, you know the thing that you unplugged is shorting the whole thing out. Now, there's hundreds of things you can unplug, but what the heck? I mean, as a mechanic, that's what I got to do. No communication. I start unplugging them, and then, wow, now it's communicating. Then I plug that one back in, and it says no communication. You know, that's the one that's bad. Hopefully, it's not something complex like, let's say it's your body control module that runs a bunch of stuff. You unplug that, and then it starts working. Well, then you're going to have to pay a mechanic anyways, because when you change the body control module, you have to reprogram it. You need machines like I have, know how to use them. So pray it's something simple, like maybe the crank sensor's bad, and when you unplug the wiring, it starts communicating, put a new crank sensor in. Pray it's that easy. Odom says, how can I make an Ecoboost Mustang last? I bought a 2021 Ecoboost Mustang before I saw your video. How can I make it last as long as possible? Change the oil every 5,000 miles in the engine and the filter. Use the full synthetic oil. Don't listen to this 10,000 mile nonsense. Change the oil a lot. Change the coolant once every 3 years. But the main thing is, don't drive like a maniac. I mean, the reason people usually buy those because they're little 4-cylinder engines, but man, they got 345 horsepower, some of them. It's a lot of horsepower, right? And you're going to burn things out, including the engine, the turbos, and the transmission. But the ones that have automatic transmissions, I road tested a brand new one, had like 1,200 miles on it. Oh, that transmission was garbage. I almost destroyed it road testing around. I was driving it hard, and then the thing started acting up. I had to get my computer and reset it. I don't like them at all. With the standard, yeah, but with an automatic, no. You want to pay maybe you want to drive 80 miles an hour when it's 80 speed limit, go ahead, it won't hurt anything. Just don't go 0 to 80 as fast as you can all the time and redline it, because you will wear the engine out faster that way. See, the thing is, they can go. It's a 4-cylinder engine, but they can go. They got 345 horsepower. But they're going to wear out a lot faster than a V8 engine, because the V8 engine has less strain on it than a little four spinning real fast. So if you drive conservatively, hey, it could last a long time. But on the other hand, don't drive it like it's a big old V8 Mustang, and the engine's going to wear out a lot faster than the V8 would. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.